existence is and how existence comes into being. Because then we will have a better understanding of our own existence as human beings. But if we don't understand the philosophical underpinnings and the scientific underpinnings of existence itself, then we will not understand our own existence, and then we are likely to be prey to the spells that are being cast on us by this project of secularism and modernity. And essentially, this is probably one of the most important things that Islam can teach us in the modern world today. So I'm sorry if that gave you a headache. And I've been talking for 45 minutes, and this is usually the time when it's time to finish. So inshallah, we can take Q&A. Thank you very much for listening. Apologies, I do have severe jet lag, so I may not have put my paragraphs in order when I was speaking, but I hope that some of that was understandable. Thank you very much. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Farajahum ma'jura, Doctor. That was such a fascinating discussion. Can we have another loud salawat? Ali Muhammad. Did anybody take any notes down? You took notes down? So a few things came to mind that I thought that was really interesting as you formulate your questions, get them ready. We're going to come around and get questions with everybody. But I found it really fascinating, as I'm sure a lot of you did, when we looked at, for example, the ahadith that you mentioned from 1400 years ago, how relevant they are today, how the Muslims of the East can see the Muslims of the West. That really struck me, huh? Especially in the social media world that we're living in today. East and West, West. Yeah, that's...
that was mind-blowing.
Subhanallah.
Finding that hadith.
Yeah, it's like finding in the Quran all the specific ayahs about what's happening in the universe, like in the help me out here, the black holes and so on and so forth, and how it's specific in the Quran 1400 years ago, yet science just discovered it now, so to speak, right? So I found that really fascinating, and also how when we're looking at the age of modernity that we're living in, and how, for example, if you listen to a certain type of music, you're actually under satanic spell. I just recently, in the last 2-3 months, saw that on social media, that people in Hollywood were talking about how certain music is actually satanic. We kind of knew that, which is why music was haram, right? Like, but not all music, certain types, of course. But how we see that now, in fact, it is, and how it has the deep influence on our children, right? Another note that I found interesting was how we talked about, and I think we've come across that too, but you said it straight out. For example, in some Pakistani people say that it's backwards to wear hijab. What other cultures do we see that in? It's backwards to wear hijab. Do we have that in any of our Arab cultures? Which cultures do we see that in? Iraqi? No, kind of opposite if Iraqis, right? Which cultures do you find that? The North African cultures? The Somali culture? If you wear hijab, it's backwards? The Gulf countries, if you wear hijab, it's backwards? It's more of a cultural piece, right? Nowadays, yeah. So what's interesting is I think I used to respect this thinker, but not anymore, because it turns out she's a Shia hater. But anyhow, she was talking about how the more covered the woman is, the more intellectual and the more modest. And then we see in the West, the more uncovered you are, the more cool and modern you are. But I kind of stopped respecting her when I realized she had some biased views towards us. But I still respect that thought when it talks about the more covered you are, the more advanced you are, so to speak. Anyhow, so these are some of my observations. I'm sure you had a lot as well. So thank you so much for sharing those, Doctor. And so now we're going to come to our Q&A. So we're going to do about 15 minutes. Do have this is the sheikhs, be very careful with it. I'm responsible for this. So I'm going to come around with the mic so that we can hear it as well. So we start on the sister's side. Is there any questions here? Any questions on the sister's side? Yes? Okay.
Hello. Okay. What moment made you realize that Islam is the truth, more specifically Shiism, and was your journey difficult? Did you have any doubts?
So my first encounter with Islam was when I was 19, and had been studying in Japan just for 3 months, staying with the family as part of my degree. And I went to Malaysia for a few days, and that was my first ever encounter with Islam. Before that, it just wasn't on my radar. I didn't know anything about it, and that was it. And I just observed how I felt comfortable in that kind of culture, in a way that I did not feel comfortable in a secular culture. Japan is also very secular. And then after that, I spent with a friend who was studying Arabic. So she went out for her year out as part of the degree. It was at the same university, SOAS University, School of Oriental and African Studies. And I just had to get out of London. I did not want to be part of that machine, because how I see it is that you get processed, and I've seen it with the younger generations. You think that, oh, I need to go to school, get my exams, get my degree, go and get it. But you're just being processed along a conveyor belt. And it's just about finding your place in this edifice, this construction. What's my place? Where's my place? And I've got to compete to find a place in it. And I did not want to be a part of that. It was a very fundamental and strong feeling that I do not want to be a part of this culture, because it's just obvious to me that it's based on pure rampant materialism and individualism and selfishness. And so I went out to Egypt and stayed there for 7 months. And that was, again, another encounter with how the traces of Islam, I've never said it's perfect, but how the traces of Islam had impacted the culture. So I was talking about this last night. As an example, the akhlaq, that even some of the poorest and most uneducated children living in the slums of Cairo, they will have better akhlaq than the kids that have gone to private school in a Western country. So yeah, I just felt I could breathe being in a society that acknowledges the higher levels of existence, where you have the adhan, and it's calling you to Allah, it's calling you to remembrance of the transcendent. And you've got people all around you who believe in the afterlife. And that dunya, I really liked the Islamic conception of dunya as this place that we are in temporarily. So somehow Islam takes you outside of it. You're looking at it from the outside. And so yeah, it was spending those months, and I hadn't even converted, but I started to fast a month of Ramadan. That was my first fast, and then came back to UK, and that was it. It was just, that's all I could think about, and it was before internet. So you kind of go around to different mosques, trying to learn from different people and buy books and things. And then I started to teach at Islamic College in London in 2001, just after 9/11. And I didn't know that the staff was Shia. So I formally converted in 99, but was nominally Sunni. Again, couldn't really find my place. I was going around here and there and couldn't really find like the people I felt comfortable with for various reasons. Like the Sunni, Sufi, arty kind of people are a bit elitist and a bit cliquey. And I thought, I didn't come into this deen just to try to get into another clique. This is like being at school. This is what you do at school. So, and then so the college was publishing the teachings of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They said, can you check the English? And then I encountered the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Yeah. And then I was like, why have I never heard of these Imams? And I was going to lectures that were hosted by people like Hamza Yusuf and Yusuf Islam, Abdul Hakim Murad, those kinds of people, Habib Ali Jifri, the educated Sunnis. And I just, and then you learn about how great this tradition is and how eminent the scholars are of this tradition. And then I just thought, why have all of the eminent scholars that they talked about never mentioned Imam Baqir, never mentioned Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam? And that's when I thought, there must have been a silent agreement not to speak about them. That's the only reason why none of them spoke about the Imams. So then it's like, there's been a cover-up. Yeah.
You know, I found a lot of, I'm always fascinated by converts/reverts, how they find Islam and specifically Shia Islam. And it's this, I hear this often.
Right.
It's like there's a cover-up, why is this missing? Just like, let's say they come into Islam from a different faith, the people discourage, don't listen or speak bad, so they're attracted to it. And then they research and dig. And then they hear about the Shias, they're kuffar, they pray to stones, they this and that, right? And then fascinated by that. So this is a friend of mine in university did the same thing. She dug and dug and dug, and she fell in love with Shia Islam herself. It's such a similar story and fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this awareness of, you know, don't read their books, don't read their books. And this is the family of the Holy Prophet. What's wrong with that? It doesn't make sense.
First year university, I hadn't been really, I inherited. I think most of us who are born into the faith, we inherit it. We don't really dig deep, right, until we're confronted. And then I attended a lecture by Abdul Rahim Green from the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So I was excited, English speaker, because we grew up with Arabic speakers here. I go to the lecture.
He's a real Wahhabi, by the way.
I didn't know, right? So one of the brothers asked, he was talking about Tawheed, but I'm like, he didn't mention anything about the Ahlul Bayt. It was in the back of my mind. And then we went up to him and somebody asked him, what do you think about Imam Hussein? And he went off. And I'm shocked. And the only answer that came out of it at that time, because I hadn't read deep, but he's the grandson of the Prophet. It was such a naive answer, but it had depth.
Yes.
But he's the grandson of the Prophet. Yeah. I walked around that day, doctor, completely disillusioned. My world was broken, that I couldn't believe that people actually felt and thought this way. And that's when I started educating myself, not with what we grew up here in the masjid, but with books. Then I was guided. Al-Muraja'at, you know, the heavy scholar stuff. So those of us who are still kind of tiptoeing, go deep, read, learn. So you know what to say. Now if I meet him, maybe I'll be able to punch back verbally, you know, kind of thing. I'll bring you along. But it's true. It's the more people speak against it, the more people are fascinated to go into it. And we see the world in modernity, what's happening right now. More people are interested about our faith. Who are the Muslims? Who are the Palestinians? Who's Iran? Now they're figuring out what Iran's all about. Yay, Iran. All right, next question from the brother's side.
First of all, thank you, Doctor, for this great topic. You know, you touch on very important things. We know there is a lot of challenges in this world, and we hear it, we see it every day. But I think you talked about is something that we don't feel. Like it's tricky things, you know. As you said, you give some examples. Okay, about the smoking ad for, you know, women smoking ads. The guy who was talking to the youth, you know, your parents are backward, you know, just you have freedom, you talk, you know, all these things. Like sometimes it comes from an ad, sometimes from a book, a lecture, announcements, you know. So it's easy to fall on these tricks, you know. Yeah. There's solutions for that. Okay, maybe I only have 2 or 3 of them, but probably you have more than that, because we need solutions. You know, this is you brought up the problem, but we need solutions, of course. So first one is we need some voices, just like you. You realized that there is some things which is not accurate or not good. You know, you gave an examples. Regular people that don't pay attention to these. You know, so we need voices like you, the others. You know, to speak to people about these things and warn them. Okay, these are ways of shaitan. You know, you have to be careful. This is one thing. The other thing is, which is I always talk about. My friends knows that. Okay, just understand Quran. Okay, when you go and do tadabbur Quran, understand Quran. Okay, it's easy for it's going to be very clear. If you hear anything, an ad or read a book or so, you know this doesn't agree with Quran. Okay, because you understand Quran very good. You know, so you're not going to be tricked. You know. So learning Quran, tadabbur or tafsir, anything, it is a very good way to be safe in all your life, okay? And the other thing is, my daughter Burak said about reading, just educate yourself. Read every day. Just leave like 1 hour for your time every day, okay? Educate yourself, you're going to be safe, okay, you and your family, you know. This is just a comment. My question is, all religions are being attacked these days, not just Islam. Islam is number one who's been attacked, okay? But how explain that in Europe now, they said Islam is spreading very fast. They said in 50 years, maybe the majority in Europe will be Muslims. So, I don't know, in one way they said they're attacking Muslims, and Muslims are, you know, they don't have that faith now, you know. As I said, some people that says Islam is now backward, you know. In the same times, we see a lot of Western people converted to Islam. So, I don't know if you can explain this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that quickly. In addition to that question, what are some solutions? Somebody asked the question, which, in terms of these challenges, what countries do you think we can migrate to secure our faith? So in addition to that, like how can, yeah.
So with regard to the, I think this is off now. With regard to, I think the mic's off. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I have some thoughts about a lot of these statements about how Islam is one of the fastest growing religions and how it's going to be the majority religion in Europe. Because we need to think about what kind of Islam and what is growing in Europe is more of the kind of Salafi type of Islam. And I've actually encountered on social media Salafi converts as well. I was attacked by some man on X where he said, I posted something about Imam Hussein alayhi salam last year. And I said, in that post, I said that for some people, for some Muslims, even just mentioning the name of Imam Hussein, as you were saying, even just mentioning the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is treated like a sin. And talking about Karbala, what happened at Karbala, is seen as borderline fitna. And so I just raised this on X, like, why is this? Talking about what happened to the grandson of the Holy Prophet. And then I got attacked by this convert who's saying to me, so do you hit yourself? You know, and I I said, no, sorry to disappoint you. So I have noticed, I went with an old college friend who's Sunni. Last year, for the first time in a long time, I went to a Sunni mosque in Shahr Ramadan. And I did notice in that mosque, it's in a very heavily populated Muslim area of London, in East London. I noticed that 2/3 of the women who were in that mosque were under the age of 25. And there is definitely a movement among the youth for becoming serious about the deen or coming into the deen. I haven't noticed the same in the Shia communities. And that made me reflect on why are we not having this enthusiastic, numbers of young people under the age of 25 who are serious about their religion. Another thing is that isn't talked about is people leaving Islam or converts leaving Islam. So there's a lot of celebration. There's a lot of celebration when someone comes into Islam, and you can see that again on YouTube. Now it's become quite the trend for people to talk about how they came into Islam, and now it's become a kind of TikTok phenomenon, and a lot of the people that are coming into Islam now are trying to gain likes and monetize their conversion.
Trend, huh?
Yeah, it's becoming. And why I liked Islam when I came into Islam was that it wasn't fashionable, because being Buddhist is fashionable. Like if you got your prayer beads and you're meditating, that's fine, that's acceptable.
We don't have ours.
We do, yes.
We have ours.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people don't realize that. They just got their.
We have our sabhas.
Yeah, that's true. But Islam was not fashionable, at least when I converted. So, if you wanted to become Muslim, you've got to be prepared for a lot of hatred from people, your family, your friends, damage your employment opportunities. And so there is that. And then also, there is, after the fanfare and after people have converted, then they find themselves quite isolated and unsupported, and they leave. So maybe people are quickly coming into Islam. First of all, what kind of Islam? To me, it looks like the kind of aggressive, imperialistic, Salafi form of Islam, which is not really of use to the Shia. Because these kinds of people do see the Shia's blood as halal, and these are converts. So it doesn't really benefit us with the numbers growing. And another thing is, what kind of Muslims, and also are they staying in Islam? Those are some thoughts. But you're right about the Quran as establishing the Sirat al-Mustaqim and the concept of purifying your deen for Allah and engaging in this constant purification. And I think another thing I like about the Quran is how it gives a bird's eye view of humanity. So it's giving an outside perspective of what we are as human beings. And reminds us of what this world is, from the perspective of Allah. Yeah.
Almost like creating a love for it, because we see some parents create. Thank you. Some parents create this fear of our faith, right?
It's true.
For those of us who are born into it, there's a fear of God. There's a fear of hell. There's a fear of if you don't pray, you're gonna go to hell, right? So it's almost like we have to create this love. And it's so fascinating to hear somebody who came into it, how they view it, but to remind all of us to to teach our kids, to teach our youth the love of the Quran, and that knowledge is power, and how cool it is to know it, you know? So I have lots of questions up here, little time, and we also have the books to buy and sell. So I'm gonna try and get through this quickly. I'm gonna ask the doctor, as jet lagged as you are, if we can speed through the questions, just for your time, yeah? Okay. So this question here says, what advice would you give to somebody who's Muslim that feels disconnected from their inner self? If you were to give 3 recommendations, what would you say are the most important things, briefly? It's a good question.
Yeah. Thank you. I would really need to know what has caused this sense of disconnection, because it can be caused by many reasons. You may know as a psychotherapist, disconnection can be caused by living in a very stressful and possibly abusive home environment.
Right. And you've mentioned quite a few examples like that, yeah.
Where you can't, you've had yourself chipped away at, your sense of self chipped away at in your home environment, so that you don't really know who you are. Somebody put a question on alislam.org that I saw the other day, where she was on the receiving end of quite a lot of psychological abuse at home, and favoritism of her brother and psychological abuse, and it was causing her to not want to do her salah and so on, and practice. So it's really, really important to find a space, a physical space in your life where you can even spend just 5 minutes connecting to yourself and rediscovering that connection. I'm just calling to mind now, one time when I was in Iraq one time, it was after Ashura, and I was driving with my colleagues up to Kaldamia, and just looking at the landscape of the country, we're heading towards Fajr time, but just looking at the landscape, I'm sure you get that as well, you know, nature. When you look at the earth and you look at the creation, you take that kind of 5-10 minutes, not just to appreciate, oh, look at what Allah has created, but also to connect to the inner you. And that's a silent connection. No one knows you're doing that. You're looking out the window of the car at the landscape, but you're taking that time to connect to your heart as well, and to remind yourself of who you are. So it always has to start with the heart, and it starts with a practice of consciously connecting to who you are and wondering who you are as well. But that needs to happen in times of peace. So you need to find a place and a time for yourself where you have that peace.
And I would say, come see a therapist. My cards are over there and over there, up here too. But that's so important to have nature, knowledge, and that time with your heart, especially in this busy world that we're in. Yeah. Thank you. Is there another question on this side? I thought I saw a hand. Okay. So I'm just going to ask if the questions can be brief for the sake of time, so we can get to the books, inshallah.
Salam.
Can you repeat that? What is
the role of the community in fighting the onslaught of modernity? Ideally, well, I mean, so many areas that need to be fought that I feel we're not really equipped to do, because the project of modernity is funded by billions and billions of dollars, as we know. And to combat that on one level, we would need to have the finances, because it's operating through it's operating through media. As Sheikh was saying, that it can be through, you know, different messages through newspaper, book, even, you know, washing up liquid, advert, these kinds, it's all messaging everywhere you go. And I know in the past, like Muslims have said, Shia Muslims have said very often, like, we need our own media. We have had a little bit of media, but it really needs to be a lot more creative, I think, and forward thinking. And so there is that. And the community themselves, in order to face this onslaught, they need to get educated on what's happening. Because what I've noticed is when I've gone out is that often the thinking is, how can we implement Islam in the West, as an example? But there is no understanding of our historical context. Where are we living in the whole stream of time? There's no understanding, and there's no understanding of modernity, and there's not really an understanding of the fact that what you are experiencing has been designed by somebody. So we have to...
So it's not a conspiracy theory.
No, and
Conspiracy
I'm
theory.
not a conspiracy theorist person. I'm like,
It's
that's
legit.
a conspiracy theory. You know, I have to see the evidence. And over 25 years, I have started to see the evidence. Not only that, actual thinkers like Chris Hedges putting into words what I just felt 20 years ago. He's putting it into words, and he's saying, if you felt there's something wrong, it's because there is something wrong. And this is why it's wrong, because it has been designed that way to be wrong. And for many reasons.
Can I just put in the question that's
Sure.
related to what you just said? Somebody asked, what freedom movement can you identify in today's day and age globally that's specifically designed to destroy or target the younger generation, which is what you're just saying right now?
Yeah. What so
Freedom movement. How
freedom
you talked
movement.
about, like,
Freedom movement.
yeah, like in line with what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
As best as we can
Yeah.
talk about.
without it going around the airwaves and me
Yeah.
getting arrested at some airport.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that was explained right there.
yeah.
We got the answer? Okay, we're good then.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
We're good. One
Okay, so you know, like as they call it now, the alphabet movement, and that, by the way, is a movement that's designed also to undermine the self, the sense of self, to challenge your sense of self. Who am I? I don't even know. And to alienate children from their parents. Oh, if your parent doesn't, is not happy with your choice, we're going to take you away from your parent, and we'll put you into care. And who's in care? Certain networks that like to make use of children.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one freedom movement, and the other is just, we can see the music industry.
Yeah.
Is the most obvious one.
One last question
Mhm.
quickly to wrap up, because I have this thing, if I don't get everybody's question, like when I go on ziyarah and people ask me to get this and that, if I don't get it by the time I leave, it's not okay. So last question here as we wrap up. So how can Muslim women balance between raising a family and holding a PhD? Very direct question. Your thoughts quickly on that.
It's not easy. I would say do your PhD part-time, because, so I've had younger women say to me in London, we need you to come and talk to the girls, to encourage them to become career women like you. And my answer to that is, I'm not a career woman. I went into academia because I was passionately against this whole culture of career. I'm passionate about knowledge. And if I am where I am, it wasn't with any planning, literally was not with any planning. And people say, oh, we want to know, like, how did you end up? It's like, really, it wasn't planned. It just happened like that through Allah's help. And so there has been no plan, and I don't have a career. I wouldn't call it a career, and I'm not a career woman. What I do feel, without, again, I'm not saying women belong in the kitchen, but what I am saying is that we need to be very careful on throwing everything out of the family, again, in the name of being independent.
Right.
And so we have to try to learn to accommodate both our studies and the home life. And sometimes you may feel you are split into two, and or maybe even into three parts, because you have the part of your PhD that maybe your husband isn't interested. He's not interested in you as a person of knowledge. He's not interested in you, doctor. He's not interested. What he wants is a wife, and then you have to think, well, what is a wife? So, and this is where, in this modern day and age, we are starting to slip, because we're losing our understanding of what is a wife, and then we're going to lose our family. So it comes down to allocating time, and it comes down to not resenting the fact that now I'm being a wife, but to understand the importance of what that is. Yeah.
And we see there's a shift now. There's this whole feminist movement of women have to do this, women have to do that, and it infiltrated our own community's thoughts to the point where it emasculated the men and the women became something else. It affected the family unit, I'm telling you from what I see in our societies and in my work. But then now there's a shift back where women are saying, no, this is too much. Stahlun, you deserved it. You know, we became aware. We can't do all of it like that. It has to be a healthy balance with our partners, within our homes. And the priority is, you know what? Those of us who do have children in the family unit, is the priority of raising the next generation of Muslims. Our careers, sure, that's there, and I'm all for it, in a way, like you are. The healthy balance, get your education, absolutely, from cradle to the grave, as far as China or Japan in your case, right? It's so important to educate, weaponize your mind and your body to have that. But we also have to remember, as women, we also have the priority of our children. And we remember the ultimate example of Sayyidah Khadija, Sayyidah Fatima, and Sayyidah Zainab, salamullah alayhim. They had knowledge, and the priority was the family. Thank you so much, Doctor. As we wrap up our evening, inshallah, once again, to thank our beloved doctor. We hope to see you again in our center and in Ottawa, inshallah, for
Thank you so much
sharing
for the invitation.
your time, your wisdom, and your presence. We'd also again like to thank our generous sponsors, Atyab Shi for the sandwiches, Mangoes for the fruit and vegetables, Say Cheese for the pizza, and My Shakala for the treats. There's still lots left. Please take it with you when you leave. May Allah reward all of them, and please do go to them. Go support our community. I'd like to thank all of the volunteers who helped tonight, ARC working with them, inshallah, and also our beautiful Masjid here. That's a cornerstone in our community for all the Muslims, and everybody's welcome here, inshallah. Thank you, last but not least, to all of you who've been present and engaged. Please help yourself to the refreshments like we said. And oh, one last thing, the draw. Does everybody have a ticket? Everybody has a ticket? You don't have a ticket, quickly get one from Sister Krista. Dr. Masterton, we'd like you to pull the prize. And right after that, inshallah, if you want the books, come on up and get it from the doctor as we get ready for Salah, inshallah. So if you don't have a ticket, raise your hand. We're going to quickly do that right now. Where are the books? The books? Yeah, we'll get them. Okay, we'll bring them here.
Okay,
We'll
bring
here, yes. Everybody has their ticket ready? Yeah? All right, can you just get the box? Oh, they're still? Okay. See, this is what happens when the men don't listen and they don't register when they first walk in. They don't get their tickets till the very end. Yeah. You want? Yeah, yeah. The book? The books are here. Card. Okay, are we ready? Can I have the jar, please? Can we have drum rolls? You didn't have one. Okay, sister back there didn't get it. I told you to come up and get it. She's gonna get one. Okay, quickly, Ella, for the sister. She really wants to win. She really wants to win. We're all good? Everybody has one? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Can we have a drum roll, please? Drum roll. Somewhere, drum roll. I have to do it too? Okay. Go ahead.
Right.
All right.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, do you want to read out the number?
Please go
Oh.
ahead. Yeah. Okay, ready? Look at your number.
So the number is 92051533.
Do we have a winner for the first one? No winner? They already left? They go, oh, right here? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You get a $25 gift certificate to Marshall's. Okay, clap for him. All right, the next one. This is from ARC. This is from the ARC Center. Go for it.
Oh, sorry.
Bismillah.
Okay, 92051560.
Do we have a winner? By the way, you're all winners for being here today and gaining knowledge, but physical, nobody who got that number? Shall we repeat? Okay, we're doing another one. Go for it.
92051503.
Was that a yes, I won? Close? Okay, no? All right, one more.
Wow. 92051509.
And we have a winner. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The sister won a aqiq, green aqiq, wellness, sibha bracelet. So everybody knows she's Muslim doing the
Yeah,
tasbih,
yeah.
not just the Buddhists. And you can get them from my private practice. Inshallah. Thank you, everybody. For those of you who are interested in the books, we're going to bring them up here. You can buy them from the doctor, get it signed. The rest of you, I ask you, please put all the remaining garbage in the garbage. If you can kindly help also, because we're going to start Salah soon for those of you who'd like to stay. If we can take the chairs and just line them up against the wall, that would be a wonderful help. Please do follow the Instagram pages for ARC Center, Serene Wellness, as well as my own page for upcoming events, inshallah, that we have. Thank you again. Wa sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. She has it on her phone. Okay, yeah. Yes. Gosh.